Come down.
Welcome to Iron Disciples Podcast 2.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, boys. Okay. All right. Let me know when everybody's settled. Iron Disciples. That's a little introduction. Okay. Podcast 2. Let's do it. Welcome to the Iron Disciples. I'm going to read this off my phone because I still haven't have it memorized, but this is a work in progress, so if you guys have anything to add
Bear
to
with
it,
us.
Bear. Yeah. We are the Iron Disciples. In this podcast, we talk about fitness, dating, finances, exploring these topics from a biblical standpoint, how to do these things as Christian men and women, if you're
right.
so inclined. Hopefully we get
There
a
are
few
any women
gals
out
there listening.
hanging with us.
Be wonderful. Okay, so we're going to open up with a nice prayer. First things first, boys. Anybody want to open up?
I got it.
Okay.
Father, thank you so much for this time today. Bless this conversation. Help it to be fruitful for not only us, but anyone listening. And may we just explore these topics and grow together. Thank you for this opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so we're going to break open today with sort of what our spiritual journey has been like. The three of us have been, I found the Lord when I was 17 and kind of fell back away. And then when I was 26, came into it. And it's a day by day, week by week, minute by minute. It's a real relationship. And so the three of us are really lucky. We have each other and we have a Bible study. This was called the Iron Disciples, kind of where this whole thing began inside this house. And we have been experiencing these men getting together and sharing their hearts and trying to study, trying to learn how to what that space is like. And we've been, like a lot of the time in church, things are so smoothly oiled. And, you know what to expect. You get your announcements, you get the worship, you get, a nice sermon, and then maybe a little worship at the end. And in this Bible study, we've been experiencing the awkwardness, and the work, the sense of duty to each other as we've been exploring what men together in one room in the morning, no alcohol, none of those sorts of elixirs there, just the Bible and the Holy Spirit to roll things forward for us.
Some quiche and coffee.
Oh, there's that. And some Red Bull for Connor, and you got your the
Monster, can't go wrong.
Let's get this out in the open. How many monsters we drinking? Just real quick.
Monster is
Good
never the problem. It's the more so back in the Pepsi Mike days, as my friends would call me. I was drinking like 5 cans of Pepsi a day.
Wow.
So
That's a lot of high fructose corn
yeah,
syrup.
that was back in the good old days, 60 pounds heavier days, and
Yeah. Someone
very unhealthy.
told Mike that Pepsi was made with the Holy Spirit. So he got confused. He's like, as much as this as I can.
I was trying to hook it up to an IV and just mainline it in, but
He didn't even care about taste at that point.
That's what those leprechauns that Santa, or those aren't leprechauns.
Oompa Loompas? No, I'm kidding. They're elves.
That's what they do. They mainline right to the veins.
Sugar.
straight sugar.
That's what I hear.
They get the work done.
When I was
That's
doing the
right.
math on the
That's
sugar,
why they
I was
don't grow
consuming.
very tall either, little guys.
Yeah, so that was the real bad days. So
Nice.
Monsters today. How many?
how
That was
many?
the
Like
original
I
question.
drink like 2 to 3 a day.
Okay.
That's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. All
So
I'm
right.
not
fella
sure.
can go to sleep on a monster.
yeah. The caffeine doesn't do it. My body doesn't care about caffeine. I could drink pre-workout and go to bed. And
Bless you.
doesn't even faze me.
Whoa.
That's amazing.
Wow. So
So
we
be
could
up, cracked out, inside with the dogs, some sand pit.
hearing voices.
Hala,
Mhm.
hala, hala,
Yeah.
hala.
Anyway, so we've been on a journey. The Lord has given us a different form of church, more of a less contemporary version of church, something that is more organic, and we've been exploring
I could
that
say it's
realm.
more biblical.
Yeah.
As Jesus kind of walked around with his disciples, and they healed people, they talked to people, they ate different people's houses, and that's what we read about him doing. There was
There's a lot
never
of
really like
movement.
a single building. It was a tons of movement.
Yeah.
It was outside, inside, everywhere. That's where church is. 2 or more gathered. So we're having church right now.
Yeah.
I've had church this week like 50 times. I'm like the luckiest guy in the world. I have church.
Yeah, it's
all
like,
the
hey,
time.
Joe, have you been to church this week?
Many times in many different places.
Been to church like 1,000,000 times.
That's important. Church is not just your place on Sunday that you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
that's the unfortunate reality of how most people view it.
And I think
And they
that,
turn on like a persona for that 1
Mhm.
hour they go there every week.
right, and that changes it because like when you get brothers meeting you in all different times of the week, when you're up and down and all around, it's like then the Lord really gets to work
Yeah.
Mhm.
because that's when you're getting into those vulnerable, awkward
Mhm.
times John's talking about. Shit gets real.
Yeah.
It's not just this sugar-coated, whitewashed.
Well, yeah. I mean, like when you think about the relationships you have with like a best friend, a bosom buddy relationship, like those relationships have all of it brought to the table. You got to know the baggage. You have to know the struggle, and then you have real bonds. You have something that's worth the investment starts to actually give returns, but you have to be willing to take the risk, and so many men are like, because we've had this going for it's almost like 4 months, I want to say, something like that.
Yeah.
And to be clear, we started off drinking coffee, like 2 or 3 of us, always 2 of
Right.
us, but right there, and that was it. That
Yeah.
was it, reading the Bible.
And it was very much
And monsters, yeah.
and monsters. Yeah. It was very much a spirit-led thing. None of us were looking for we were looking for connection. We were all interested in what was in each other's minds and hearts, and God was delivering over and over again. So it's like, well, what are you guys going to share? What are you guys going to talk about? It's like, well, there's us, and then there's God working through us, and then us standing back and being like, wow, there really is a plan here. So we just watched that little group grow into, now we have probably like 8 to 10 regulars,
20 total. I
20
think.
total, right? So depending on who can make it. And these guys have began that process, where the facades are up at first. You get that, like Mike had said, that church version at first. It's very safe. We're connecting on things we feel are safe, and everybody's going to, and then it's starting to percolate into more of that depth. And so we're seeing that now, and we're gonna, it's like I want to share what happened today with Shannon and stuff, but do you think it'd be okay? We probably should.
I mean,
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think we should.
No.
I think it's just more important
talk
to
around
talk
it.
about.
Yeah.
It's not just him, though. I mean, it's like I'm going through the
Yeah,
same
I can
thing.
see. Yeah.
So many of us are dealing with these issues because, well, as men, we deal with lust a lot. Especially like I'm a single man.
I'm going to back you up on
Yeah,
this
back
quick
it up.
because I was going to comment something on the group that I think is is unique, and one reason why it's working out so well is we're not just like most small groups. They just meet like once or twice a month, or once a week, maybe twice a month, and that's the only time they see each other. Whereas most of us, we see each other doing our other passion at the gym very often.
Yeah.
And I think that develops another level of connection
No, you're right.
that most kind of groups don't have.
Mhm.
And I think that is one reason why we're seeing the fruit of it and the growth of it. And it just adds it's in a whole nother layer of connection we have
Mhm.
with our brothers in the group.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
And
Mike.
to underline that, that's the Iron Disciples, pumping iron.
Right.
Iron sharpens iron. It's dual meaning there.
Thank you,
in
brother
that we
Shannon.
do. Brother Shannon. So at the gym, it's funny. It's like, it's not funny. It's really real when you're in your last couple sets and you're busting your ass, and it's
Oh my God.
those facades don't
Yeah.
stick around very long, or you're dealing with injuries or there's something else going on. It's like you get the real version of those people, I believe,
Mhm.
at the gym, because
Mhm.
you really can't mess around if you're really bodybuilding, or that discipline takes a lot of focus.
That's gonna strip you down. When you're tired and you're focused and you have that pain in your body, your energy is not
pain.
there.
Yeah.
Well, real
Pain keeps you real.
Real pain keeps you
Suffering keeps you real.
I mean, hello, if you've been a Christian, you know that the pain, if you're walking with Christ, suffering and pain is there. The only difference between us and the rest of the world is there's purpose behind it. So we feel good about it because, as our beloved old brother C.S. Lewis said, he's stripping these rabbits down and turning them into men. And that's a painful process. But I think that's such a good point, because you'll see, and this is for those of you who don't know about gym culture, but that is what Mike is saying and Joe's talking about, the background of the group. I'd say like 80% of the guys we got, the background culture that we really connect with is gym and fitness. And some of the guys are younger, and we love the younger guys because, and this is what we're seeing, they have control over their bodies, and they're seeing changes happen. They're seeing that through discipline, they can make a better body, and that makes them more attractive. That makes them more disciplined. It's a win-win. Granted, you don't make that your sole focus. It overlaps into life in so many positive ways. And the idea that I see is that the spiritual man has gains too, right? So we take that vernacular of the gym, you can apply it to the spiritual man.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
That's what they're seeing of value. They're like, oh,
And
where does this come from?
That's what we were talking about in group last week, on how the discipline we take in the gym correlates so well with disciplines and the habits needed in your spiritual life to
That's
create
right.
a strong spiritual man.
Because it's not like a team effort in the gym. It's like bodybuilding is, you do a lot of stuff alone. You're dieting alone, you're training, or we train together sometimes. But
no one's helping you in that set, dude.
Yeah, and you don't have that whole, not a bunch of people rooting you on for your team. It's a very sovereign battle, which is like walking in with the Lord. It's
True.
you and the Lord, and that is it. At the end of the day, we're gonna face God by ourselves. There's no one else gonna be with us. We're gonna have to go look at our Father, and it's just gonna be Him and us, or I, or you, and it's just our eyes together.
It's true.
Really,
And that's a reckoning that making excuses is what holds people back. If you're in the gym and you're not seeing gains, you blame your diet, you blame your genetics. I mean, that's something you really can't change, but usually it's a result of you not putting in effort in some way.
Right.
And so the same thing is true for our spiritual growth. God's there for us to grow. He's always wanting us to grow, but we do have to surrender our desires. We have to surrender, so much. I mean, surrendering ourselves so we can really be embodied by Christ is a difficult task. I mean, simplicity does not equate to easy. Just because it's simple does not mean that it's easy.
that's for sure.
Right. I mean, and you see that with curling, doing a curl, right? Like, so many newbies go to the gym, and that's like the first exercise.
My God, I was talking to this girl last night, and she's like, "Oh, it's so boring going to the gym. I just can't do it. I'm so bored. I have to go on to like TikTok to get inspired by these new movements." And I brought up the curls. So it's like, I've been doing curls for like, I don't know, almost 20 years, it feels like. And I still find something new about it. There's always something, even though it's just a simple movement, it's really so much to be had out of it, which I love about bodybuilding. And
yeah,
the
and
repetition
that
of it,
makes me think about
exploring the same thing over and over again.
Right. And it's like, okay, this Bible right here, it's the living word, and we have to realize how great that is. It's not a normal text. I mean, the curl, just taking something basic like a curl, you can spend a lifetime trying to figure that out. And here we have this living word that's constantly changing. I mean, it's never the same in the way that our God is infinite. This living word is infinite. And so you read a verse or you study with your brothers and you learn something. And then that stacks in the next 5 years on something different. And then that begins to flourish in a completely different domain of your life you never could have dreamed. And that's the wonder. We're never going to be bored, is what I'm saying. We're never going to run out of stuff.
Which is great because we're gonna have notes that go along. Because reading the Bible is not easy. Going to the gym and doing curls seems really boring. And like to this girl, I totally understood why she said that. Like I was like, yeah, I guess it kind of is boring from your perspective. The Bible can be extremely boring from most people's perspective. Think they know what it is. It's been around forever. It's in every bookstore and everyone's got one. In every hotel room, there's a Gideon in there. I mean, it's one of those things that you can just look at and be like, yeah, that thing has got about negative 100% interest in that. But it's absolutely the bread of life, and it's so once you start to break it open with the Bible notes, we'll start bringing those in, which will shed some light on how to interpret. Because the parables are great. A lot of those things you can just immediately extract goodness from, but a lot of the other content within the Bible, you wonder like, why is this here? That's a great question. There's a whole lot of meat and like really highly nutritional elements in there.
Nothing
once you break it open, which
nothing's
is what we do in
superfluous.
Iron Disciples. That's
Right.
what John does, writing
Go
his
ahead,
notes.
I was just say there's lots of context you got to unpack, and
Unpack,
like with the gym, the habits you develop with reading daily and praying daily, and those things that many days you don't want to go to the gym, or you're tired of that bicep curl you've done for like the 6th time this month, but you're still getting gains out of it. So even though you feel like you just read that passage this morning, you don't know how it's speaking to your heart in the long run. You don't know what the Holy Spirit's doing with it. So even if in that moment you're like just kind of going through the motions, reading it, you don't know what it's doing.
No.
You don't know.
And that's humility. It's like you're keeping that in the back. Like I was thining about the Karate
because we
Kid,
don't know.
you know,
like
like,
you
yeah.
don't immediately know when something's affecting. It takes some things take days and weeks, and then you're just like,
just
Well, that verse you read
Boom.
might just pop in your brain like weeks from now.
yeah.
right.
Yep.
The purpose and agency of
Just
Of
like
these
when you're
things.
just to have prayer with people. Like last night, I had prayed for my buddy, and they were having his wife's brother was coming out of prison, and at the end, the Lord was like, "You should pray with these people, just
heck yeah.
because you should." And I was like, "Oh, is it all right if I pray with you guys?" So we prayed at the end of the night, and I could tell it was like a little bit awkward, and I just was like, "Lord, let it be what it is." And I think it's important to highlight those moments. And I was like, didn't feel great, but I was like, that's
Yeah,
what a
been
man's
there, been there.
That's what you're supposed
God
to
worked,
do.
right? You're not doing the
Right.
work. So many times we evaluate one of those circumstances or exchanges. We're like, well, you know what? That really, maybe I didn't do any good. But you know, if your heart is right and you did what you thought was
It's
right,
not your job
It's
to
not
do
your
it.
job.
No.
It may have went great, you know, but and that's coming back to faith. Like
Yeah,
I
because you
think
don't
about-
always know. It might have. Maybe they,
It did.
I was just saying.
You have
I
to
was
tr- that's
nervous.
faith.
You know.
Sure, and you know, so was so many of the guys that we read about. Like, who's one of the more nervous dudes? I always think about the Old Testament for it.
Moses.
Moses, yo, that's a
Wow,
great
totally
one. Right? He
nervous.
couldn't talk. You know,
Anxiety.
literally, and he was meant to lead people. I love how the Lord picks people out just to be like, I'm bigger than those circumstances, and that trust. I think about the Karate Kid, right? You know, like he
Wax on, wax off.
Right, but-
what the hell? am I
But why
doing?
did he care? Why did he trust that would work? Because of the old Asian guy. That guy looked the part. He was like, this guy is wise.
Mr. Miyagi?
Mr. Miyagi has the knowledge. And that faith part is what we work on. I mean, like, you can walk away from that going, man, I know I don't feel great about it. But my Father in heaven, the infinite master of this universe, has providence in this
And that's
moment.
what we need to lock into more as men, because that's what men do. That's what Moses did. And you know, Elijah, a lot of these guys, like we talked about this in Bible study. I brought it up actually as reading Luke, and I read it again today. When Jesus went up to the mountain and he was talking to God was talking out of all the creation, the angels and eternal beings, he chose to talk to Moses and Elijah about his coming crucifixion and what would have to go down. And you brought up a good point, because they're men and God is a man, so he would choose men.
Jesus
to
was
makes
a man
sense.
at that time.
Yeah,
And you'd
God was
counsel
a
with
man.
men. Yeah.
So makes a lot of sense. But the reason why I bring that up is those guys had to make. Their compass was not about like what felt right in the moment.
Nah.
Their compass was always struggling, like all the time, dude. Like, is this the right thing? Should I say this? Everyone hates me. I can't talk. We're starving to death. The people are freaking out. I said I was going to be in the promised land. We're not. And what do we do now? And, just always contending with adversity. And I was thinking just now as you're saying that, how often did they feel great about any decisions that they made?
Well, we know
in the moment?
Elijah,
They were aligning themselves with God.
That's right. And Elijah, I mean, we know this from every single guy in the Bible. They get depressed. But Elijah specifically, he got depressed because he worked so hard, and God had to go feed him with the crows. He's just ready to die. And even seeing all those things that God had done through him, he still felt that way. So it's okay to feel that way. And that's the beautiful part about God's encouraging, loving. He's going to come to you and he's going to enrich you.
It's good to feel that way.
Yeah,
it's good to feel
okay.
depleted.
It's okay.
It's good to feel like you're not on your game.
That's right.
Because you're actually pushing your game. You're actually getting closer, I think, a lot of times.
I agree. And it's a place that God clearly wants us to explore. In those places, we surrender completely. Elijah was ready to die. So God's like, I'm not done with you. Can you guys hear? Or is it dropping out for you guys sometimes?
I'm hearing fine.
Okay.
The sound changed a little bit.
It did. I was noticing it changed just a wee bit too.
Probably my air conditioning sucking a lot of power out of the building.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, going back to, so Iron Disciples has this wonderful culture. From lifting weights, we see the young guys getting interested in building the spiritual man.
The value of that.
The value
the
of
tools that
right.
they use, how they cross over to a spiritual man.
Exactly.
Building a strong spiritual man. Same thing, tools apply. Where do the tools come from?
They're universal.
Yeah.
And that's why Paul says that you can read the word of God, it's great, but he also put the law in you and it's in the world around you. So that's a comforting thing. There's wisdom. I look at Shannon, he's relatively new to the faith. But he's got wisdom of years of being a father, wisdom of living in the world, and that translates. It translates. You don't have to know the whole word of God to have wisdom and God work through you in a powerful way, because he made the world a specific way to help teach us those lessons. I mean,
look at the Good Samaritan. He didn't know anything about that. All the Jews and everyone went to the other side of the road.
Right.
They're like, this guy is gross. But he was like, you know what? I need to take care of this man and pay for him to get better, and I will come back and pay any debts that he owns. And that was a man of God.
Right.
Yeah, it was written on his heart, serial number.
So, yeah, and we're, as men today and people in general don't have these, we're talking and hanging out here for like an hour or more. When men get together in the morning, it's not at a bar. It's not with all these common, things to excite you. It's the morning, still wiping sleep out of their eyes, some of them. And you get to the heart of who they are. We get to study together. And so we've been seeing God. We've been getting taught by the Lord what that looks like. And to encourage anybody who's starting a Bible study or worried about what it might be like, just to really, go off the hip of these points we've been making. If it looks bad or it's not going well, or these emotions are there and you're trying to evaluate whether or not you're doing it for the Lord, you're going to work through those murky, weird points together. And what we have seen recently, without divulging things and taking liberties that aren't my own, is that the men have built trust together. So now they have trust. They can rely on each other in a way that true friends do, brothers do. And they're sharing things now, struggles, real stuff, stuff that's you don't want to think about even by yourself.
We all deal with these things, though. So
right.
We do think about them by ourselves. But
what I mean to say is you do think about them by yourselves, but it's hard. It's very hard to even think about them by yourself. It's not that you don't, but, working on them by yourself
Thinking
sometimes.
about anything by yourself is hard. That's why writing is so important, getting your thoughts out. And like Jordan Peterson was talking about, writing is so important, especially if you're by yourself and you don't have people to interact with.
True.
Because through vocalizing things, you put things in order. Through writing things down, you put things in order, and you can get an idea for how to better handle and evaluate what you're actually thinking.
And writing is good. Writing is good. I'm not saying that there's so many tools you can use to help make sense of the chaos in your mind. What we're seeing is brothers using brothers as tools to make sense of that chaos.
Iron sharpening iron.
Right. And it's a humbling and honoring feeling. When you are given information that's sensitive, man, does it make you just sit back and go, I guess you realize the humanity in people. Like, have you ever watched a movie, or like sometimes for me, music, a lot of times music will do this. You know, you'll have a long day and you'll hear something and you'll like see events and things in your life, and it'll just bring like a tear to your eye, like the sensitivity and depth of people and their value all of a sudden just hits right to the core of your heart. And you just feel, it's like you're happy, you're grateful, but you're also just like almost mad at yourself for not realizing how it's always been there. It's always there. And you're like, man, gosh, these people are so amazing. Like, I just want to love them. I just want to like grab them and hug. You go back to like all those kid things. Like, what can I do to just, I want to hold this person and make them feel like they're loved, you know? Understood. Yeah. Recognized.
Seen.
Yeah. And it's like that feeling is so much fuel. And I've been feeling that, you know, like since we had study and seen some of this stuff break open. I'm like, man, that's why God makes us go through those weird points.
So let's talk a little bit about, let's go on past this, because we all dealing with these things. We got single guys over here. I just came out of a 12-year relationship in September.
So you want to talk? All right, let's do it.
And it's I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support. I'm not super vocal about what I go through. I'm not.
Rarely are
that
men
way.
vocal about that stuff.
Right. Some are more than others, but the support that I feel in the group is so profoundly fortifying that it's just like, it's helped me so much. It's helped me. Brother Mike's helped me so much. My brother John, you know, just being with these guys and knowing that, because we have like a Telegram thread as well. So all week long we're messaging and talking. So it's not just the church is happening digitally. It's happening all the time. So
Love
that's
it.
kind of where I'm coming from. Been single for the last few months. And I know Mike here is another single man. John is getting married.
I'm already married, for all you people that wonder about, you know.
Married under God versus
Married under a contract that your state, province, whatever, you know, who's recognizing it, who's the most important person in your life? It's God. So if you're going to get married, it's between you, that woman, and God.
I
you know,
agree.
now I don't want to, I have a story to kind of go deeper on my thoughts on that, because I know I'm going to piss people off by saying that, especially the ladies. They're like, well, just because you said so, you know, like guys promise a lot of stuff, and yeah, they do, and they're also full of caca. So if you do that and you really believe in the Lord, then you're not. That's a serious thing. So it depends on the person. But anyway, we have the gamut here, right? We have a guy coming out of a long relationship, basically married for a decade, since he was a kid, basically, and then we have Mike.
I'm on the flip side of
the
it.
complete flip side of it, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's flip side because I've spent most of my adult days single. So for me, it's just like, you're probably scared to be single and not that unknown. I'd be the opposite.
That's why we're bros.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some of that iron, sharpening that iron right there. We're exchanging our experience.
Yeah.
Different jungles, right?
You know, and so we're on flip sides of the coin, but we're still dealing with the same thing right now.
Exactly.
Which is like, there's the battle of the dick and balls. And that is like an ongoing thing, because like we want to procreate, we're made to procreate. You know, at the gym there's plenty of women and girls that,
Oh man, is that
lots
an
of temptation
overwhelming-
over there just a little walking around.
I feel like selling blinders for like Christian men. Be like, yo,
It's
check
not
these things out.
That's not. Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's like every time, just like a gray blob, you know, like for
Right.
every woman you
Did or
see.
something
you're
that like
right
electrocutes you every time you do look at it.
That's even more harsh. I love that.
Right in your
It's
nutsack.
like then you see your wife and you're like, ah. Yeah, I'd be like, I want to take it there.
No, it's okay with your wife, but yeah, it'd have to be like a smart electrocutor.
You'd have, yeah. I mean, but then again, you're talking about averting your eyes, you know, and really that's what you need to do. You need to experience that self-control. You can't have blinders. You can't have an easy shortcut.
You know, and I don't have a problem with beauty and showing. Obviously, we're bodybuilders. We go up. Well, not me, but I mean, when you do go up, you're in basically underwear, and
Like
it's
the stage,
showing
you're
your
talking about
body
the stage
for
Like,
sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And well, even posing. So
Me in my bathroom.
I
you go up in the underwear.
yeah, I you know, there's a difference between recognizing beauty and appreciating beauty, whether that's male or female, and then there's also the idea of sexualizing it, and that is where the line is crossed, and that's what the tough thing is. Because I remember when I was a kid, getting pornography was hard. It was not easy. It was like you had to run around and like try to find someone's dad who had something, and maybe like you give him a couple bucks to like tear out a picture of like some really old magazine you hope to God he wouldn't find, and like be like, where's my pictures, son? And you know, or you found some bootlegged videotape that your buddy made. It's all like, you know, snowy and just horrible, and you're like, I think that's a boob. I think it's all I need to know.
That was like cable, late night cable TV.
right, yeah, where
Yeah,
you
it
just
was
kind of like getting the
waiting
channels
for-
you couldn't get, but you can almost get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much focus and dedication. I mean,
It was
12-year-olds sitting around a TV full of snow for like an hour for like 30 seconds of a semblance of a
made
of a
it
female
so
body.
much better.
It's like you better off reading like
It made
Natural
it so
Geographic.
much
or
better.
something.
Now, like you have kids that
Exposed to stuff.
that's
that,
what I was saying. It's like
insane stuff when
right
they're
here,
young.
24/7 at my fingertips. I can go look up whatever I want. I
Mm.
can see whoever, whatever kind. You know, it's like
And you
It's a
combine
totally
that
different
with
world.
how the music, like you talked about some of the music, or we talked about that recently, and you combine that with these teenagers getting access to that music, combining the content, and it's just normalized before they're even an adult in their
It is.
brain.
it's
It is.
wild.
Especially like
It's like Doja Cat, because like
Yeah.
I had just found out about her. I had heard this song. I was out in LA, and it was like super like sexual, and I was like, "What is this?" It was kind of interesting because it was a girl singing, you know, and a lot of girls were listening to it, and they loved it, and I was like, "This is interesting." Girls getting like they feel like hot and they feel sexy listening to this song. What are they talking about? So I listened to the song. I was like, okay, picked out a couple lyrics. I was like, this is like a porno that I'm listening to. Like she's just talking about pretty much
Mm-hmm.
sex. Where I came from music, where it was just more poetical, you know, it was not like just so right up in front of you, and which is odd because men are more visual. We're just like, give it to me. This is what I want.
Well, I
and
think
women
that-
are not.
And this
Generally,
this is a point that comes out of the urban music scene. Like the guys have been singing about it that way for a long time. The guys, especially when you're talking about urban music,
yeah. I'm talking about
that's-
rock and roll.
rock and roll's way
Journey.
different. Yeah.
You know, Foreigner, and you know,
Right, like let me
Red
lay
Hot
my
Chili
love into you.
Peppers.
You know, like stuff that is poetic.
Devil Driver.
You know, that's poetic as it gets.
All right, we're back. Quick intermission. Camera died, but we're back online.
Growing pains.
And we had just talked about Doja Cat and kind of the sexualization that's going on with the content of music, and sort of just how up in your face and your grill it is now.
The whole world.
Which and
Right,
one
not
thing
just
I wanted to
music,
bring
your
up-
phone, the magazines in the stores, the way people talk about it, the whole thing.
You sexualize
Yeah.
things because it's like
Well,
you
not
can-
only it's the sexuality in and of itself has always been sort of it's been insulated with this sense of respect, maybe too much in the past, okay, but it still had this taboo feeling of like, let's not trivialize
it's
it.
exciting.
It's exciting, but it's not something.
Very
There was a sensitivity to the value in it and what that exchange meant.
So we're so far
So.
desensitized. I was beginning to say that like us males, we're more up in front. Like, yeah, give it to me raw. It's just like I want to see some big old boobies, and it's like we don't. The whole romanticism thing is more of like a female thing. Not to say that it's not a male.
I would
thing.
disagree with that.
Well,
I would disagree with
generally,
that
men are
a
more
lot.
visual.
No, I'd say generally boys are. You know, I think as
Okay.
men grow up, and I think women are very visual too. I mean, you have to believe that when you look at the actors in Hollywood that are the A-list actors, they're not the greatest actors. They're the greatest looking actors usually. I mean, Anthony
Al Pacino's not very.
Anthony Hopkins. No women like that guy. Dudes like that guy.
It's true.
Scarface.
That
no
accent.
ladies like, let's watch Scarface.
But
I mean,
Hugh
maybe
Jackman.
one. He's a handsome
Christian
dude. The
Bale.
bitch can dance.
You're right.
And he can sing
Well,
too.
there would,
Yeah, that's right.
as like Rollo would say, there's a difference though. There's a difference between the I would say, the lustful attraction visuals.
Right.
So that's kind of the first bucket, and then there's like the long-term attraction characteristics that
There's charismatic, right? You're
Yeah.
getting more into like the Casanova, this stuff. You're getting into
Casanova
they
was
might
a
be-
serial dater. John.
those
All right,
they
I'm
might
not
be in the
saying
short term.
advantage of women's romanticism and banged them all
okay.
and left.
I'm
them.
not denying any of that, but what I am saying,
It's just bolstering my point.
what I was no.
There
because
are some men, John, but I'm talking about
I'm
majorities.
talking about maturity,
And
here.
they might not be mature,
But
many mature men on planet Earth.
I
So
think
that's why.
okay.
that you
What
don't
I
see
this is
it.
the point I'm making. I'll make this point because of the early influence, visual influence we get as kids with the inundation of pornography and stuff. It stifles our growth as men.
Not only that,
so
genetically
we get
look
stuck
for,
in
we
that
look for
zone.
certain things to know that a woman's childbearing.
I'm not discounting that. I'm not making it a zero. I'm just saying that somehow, because of these circumstances we're in, it's meant to make us worse. What happens is the men are bad at connecting with women because of this stuff. They overvalue the look of a woman, and they fail to understand there's a whole dimension past that that's far more rewarding. Yeah, I sound like the fucking, excuse my language, I sound like the guy that's like, he doesn't like tits and ass or whatever. That's not true. What I'm saying is that
I know that's not true.
I think
Tell me that. But yes.
what I'm trying to say is that the agenda of why this stuff is so prevalent,
I get it, John. I get it.
Okay.
That's like, but it's not the
view
world
it-
we live in. Like,
I view it almost like I would take it even a step back further. If we look at what the male brain wants from like an animalistic instinct, it's literally just maximal volume and maximal partners.
But we're not only animals.
Yeah, so
Boys are
that's,
more animals.
That
the
is
flesh.
what the male brain at the core wants, and then society and culture, I would say, reins that in, and especially morals, like Christian morals, rein that all in,
And they abuse
to-
us with us.
and to put us into a more productive frame of reference or frame
Right.
of mind.
We're
'Cause
more
that's the same
marketable
with-
that
well,
way.
oh,
That's the same with everything, though, because it's like we, at the animalistic core, we are very tribal, kind of terrible people.
Yeah.
And society and culture and morals rein that in and help us be like civilized.
Mhm.
and here's why:
Right.
because we have to live in society. We have
Mhm.
we have these obligations to live in this life that we do, where we live to be 90 years old. If you don't have any genetic predispositions to some illness or something that will take you out earlier, where ultimately you want to have kids that you can hang out with
Time
when
out.
you're 60.
Time out. The screen went dark.
Oh yeah,
Dang,
it's doing
dude.
it again.
Uh-oh. That thing's dead. Didn't even beep this time. This time it's just like, I'm tired.
Oh whoa, was on.
What setting are we on? Was it going the whole time? So many questions.
That's his playing some games. What's that little red light saying?
It's the recording, yeah.
Battery looks full.
Good eye, though, Mike. Keep an eye on that shady
You know,
guy
the
over
Canon
there.
does that too, but it's only for pictures.
Do we have to, like, say good job, Lumix, every once in a while?
We need a- we
to
need a
acknowledge
back-
its existence.
We need to get Dave here to run the show in the
Yeah.
background.
That's what we need.
Yeah,
Young
Dave, where are
Jamie.
you? Dave,
Young Dave.
We need a producer.
the
We are
behind
not-
the curtain contributor, man.
We're not good at
Badass
this.
guy.
We're not good at the tech.
So real quick, so yeah, living in society, you want live to be 90, you want to have kids once you're past your sexual prime so you can hang out with people, and you want to have a mate that understands you. Take it to the other guy, your promiscuous one he's got all these kids maybe around, he's got no solid relationships, he grows old, very lonely. All he's got to do is look back on stories. So ultimately, in the long run, if you're going to think about the long run, it's not a good plan or strategy.
Depending on your value structure. Some of those guys are old, and, who are you going to argue with? You're
Well,
gonna argue
eventually you're gonna have a wrinkled sack, and either you're just paying for money for sex, which has got to feel like pretty awful.
those guys usually have been doing that their whole lives.
yeah, and they're
So
To
it's
some
not,
extent.
it's not very different.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That sounds depressing.
That's what watching pornography is.
Yeah.
Paying for it, dude. You're not paying for it in dollar. Maybe you are. Nowadays it's free, but you're paying for it with your experiences that you could be having that were good. Salubrious, gratifying, wholesome stuff that's good. So, I mean, you're paying for all this stuff. All of it. And the point I was making is the world that we live in is run by the devil. Period. God made it that way, so we have to prevail upon it. And so we're noticing the sabotage that the world has done to us as men, how they've tried to abuse us with this stuff since we were young. Because, you know, I don't care how good of a parent you are, your kids are
You're
going to
gonna
find
find
it.
it,
They're going to
for
find
sure.
it, and it's going to suck.
I was
and
gonna
you're
say
have to deal
abuse
with it.
yourself because my parents didn't do.
What I'm saying is the
I
world,
did plenty
the world.
of self-abuse growing up.
Okay, so the world is purposely abusing the youth so they can be more marketable, so they can sell them
They're
sex.
exploiting the.
They're
youth.
exploiting. I mean, it's abuse. Exploitation is abuse. I think about it from like Doja Cat, right? Okay,
I want to get back to
People-
her.
I know you wanted to make a point about Doja Cat.
I wanted to make a
and
point
music, so-
about females because
Huh.
I feel like the males have been this way, but now, like within this red pill
female
movement,
sexual revolution.
like it is a revolution.
Yeah.
Women are becoming much more open about their sexuality. You know, wanting the things that men were much more open about, and like being proud of it. Basically, being proud of like
They're more promiscuous
they're
than men
way
now.
more promiscuous, and it's like.
Look at Marilyn
There's a
Monroe, right?
shift
She
that's-
was not a great actress, but she made women feel good about being sexy. And dude, women love her for that reason.
The only this is something for you guys out there. Know about love. It doesn't matter how good looking you are. If you don't make a woman feel attractive,
You got nothing.
you're not gonna
and
have.
you have to do it
any
like
game.
earnestly. You have to really. That's why I bring up Casanova, right? That guy. I love this about him. He was a piece of shit. All right, let me straighten that out for you, Joe, so you don't think I'm making him out to be a good guy. Anyway,
Come here. Come
he
closer.
closer.
in the shot. Yeah.
Okay. So what he would do is he'd take a woman that wasn't generally accepted as a beautiful woman, all right? But he would pick out something about her that maybe if he was really doing it like a master, it was something she didn't even know.
Mm.
And he would be like, this is what makes you uniquely beautiful. This is something the world is overlooking because they're stupid.
It's your
They're
trademark.
dumb. They don't have the eye. They're looking for Marilyn Monroe's. They're looking for whatever's the stereotype, but this is what makes you unique. And trust me, the dogs out there, the real bad guys that know how to lie, they do that to women all the time. And they're mushing their hands. If you do that to a woman, you are going to be judged for it. You better be talking truth. You're not supposed to be doing that all willy-nilly. Otherwise, you will be
Willy-nilly.
you will be judged for that hardcore. And all that stuff will come back to bite you in the ass because you won't know if you're telling the truth or not.
It's a good thing I'm not good at that.
Joe can
Just
serenade
like,
a beautiful
you know,
song.
you
That's
probably-
not true. I don't believe that.
You know.
You're trying to get
I
away.
didn't have a lot of time alone. 12-year relationship. I'm 33. I was in like a 2-year relationship before that. So that goes into my dating game is non-existent. I don't know anything about that. I basically get nervous and then try to figure out what I'm doing in that moment.
That's all great.
That processing
Yeah.
takes a lot of my bandwidth, and
The
lot to learn. for
and
me.
that's why I
lot
love
to learn. It's
I
exciting.
gotta
It's a lot of
learn
fun.
some people reading now.
Yeah.
woman
You get to play all the
reading.
text games and
That
All
that
that
one
garbage
thing is
stuff.
dude. I looked at my. I had after you sent me this because Mike sent me this hilarious TikTok about these dudes like trying to ask a girl to dinner. How many different
Oh, that
ways?
was so funny.
It's like yeah, my place 8 a.m. So what do you think about this place? You know,
no, too easygoing.
Too easy.
Be more forward. Dinner at 8.
you can't tell her to dinner. You gotta ask her to dinner.
Yeah.
I looked into my notes and I was like trying to text this girl and I literally had like 10 texts for the same thing. I was like, holy crap. Like I'm doing this.
This is complete insanity.
It's insanity,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
And it,
how-
it actually
Ah.
matters. Like
It
I think you
does.
can really screw up it with like one wrong text. Boom, they're gone because they got 10
Oh,
other people in their DMs.
Yep,
Mhm.
because girls are like, wow. What about
This goes
online
back to
dating?
some. This is another thing though. Like for you Christian men out there, we have some young guys in the group, and they're looking for wives, and obviously that's way high. It might be number one. Okay,
Yep.
and understandably so.
That's why we're talking
But-
about it.
Yeah, and that's why we are talking
Yeah.
about it. I mean, that's why this podcast is hopefully where our aim is to help young men and old men. All right, we want to help these guys and us figure out what this is. This is iron sharpening iron. But the point I'm making here is, you have to surrender these things to God. God always wants your foremost desire, and He wants to take that. He's not settling for 95%, great, because the same thing is true for truth. A 95% truth is still a lie. So commitment is the same way in devotion. God sees that way. So if you're like becoming a Christian to get a Christian girl, that's going to show the holes real quick. Same thing with God. Like if you're like, oh, I love you, Lord, everything I'm doing is for you. Meanwhile, you have women on your brain 90% of the time. God sees that. So you have to say 2 things we talked about in study. Not everybody is guaranteed a wife. Not everybody's guaranteed a wife or a husband. That's just not in our text. Sorry. You're going to have to get over that fact and just to say, Lord, this is what I want.
If you get one.
Yeah, and that's the point, right? So if you do get one, it's not owed to you. It is a gift, and you better settle on that fact. So surrendering it to God and giving that to God as like, God, I really want this. This is something I want. You know my heart. But I want you more. And I know that what your desires for me in this point in time, the rest of my life, they are what are going to make me happiest. So do that. That way, because, if you're searching.
That's easy to say, but these
think about
guys
staying
have
up late at night and text things over and over again, right? That sucks. How do you, trying to find a girl,
Of
it can
course.
soak up so much time.
Oh, black hole.
Yeah.
It's a black
I
hole.
mean, I've been there, dude.
And
then
that's you get frustrated, and then you're like, man, I hate girls, and you just look at some porn to try to, because you got these nuts,
the dick and balls.
then you're stuck in this kind of thing where you kind of, and I noticed because Mike has been single a lot longer than I have, and it's kind of depressing, I think, and that depression going into the dating world, it's kind of depressing, and then.
You
That
mean like
depression,
being a dater, like getting
into the dating world as a Christian man, and I'm sure even as like any man, I don't even if you
It's
have
all
nothing,
man. It's
I think
all
it's
man.
all man. It can be depressing. That depression then turns into like bitterness and like, you know what?
Big point there.
There's a lot of chicks out
Big
there.
point there.
I don't know where they are, but I'm sure there's a few hidden in a barn in Kansas. Gorgeous and love the Lord.
Some of those
Haven't
good
been
old Amish
tainted
ladies.
by the Doja Cat from 8 years old. God forbid. I see like little kids being like, I want to ride that D and some other. I'm like, what is going on? This is horrifying. But anyways, I don't know where these girls are at, and it seems like there's not a lot of them. And I just feel like you can feel like giving it up, and then
It's-
just being like, man, there ain't nothing out there. I'm just gonna
Mhm. Where do you
I
get your
think-
encouragement from?
start fly
Well,
fishing.
for
and-
one thing, for me, like my motivation in the end is like I want kids at some point.
I know.
And
You're
if I
a
didn't
very
want-
rare bird, Mike.
If I didn't want kids, like I'd be like, I'm cool being single. Like,
Cool with the bachelor life.
Yeah.
I'm always like, why don't you adopt? You're like, I want one from Michael Horn.
Well, there's that, and then I'm like, I got the
Little
Jordan
Mike.
Peterson mindset or thing in my head. Like 2-parent household makes the most sense. Like for a kid, like so if
true.
you're purposely adopting a kid into a not the best environment,
Oh,
it's
that's
kind
a
of
good point. Yeah, you
like,
want
are
to
you
have
doing
the-
a disservice there a little bit?
Probably on
um,
some level. It's
So
not patient.
I don't know.
that's-
It's better have one than none.
yeah.
I think you have to do.
Anyway,
due
what
diligence.
let him say.
Yeah.
So,
But so yeah, for me, it like the times I've taken like complete months, like 6 months off dating, just like I'm not gonna just deal with this. I'm like the happiest and less stressed out,
Right?
And like it's the best.
okay.
So
Yes.
for me, taking a step
Yep.
away, I'm the happiest.
I want to.
Mhm.
Okay,
Uh,
so I
Because you
agree
just don't
with
have
that.
all this, and this is something from
'Cause-
being 12 years in a relationship, and then coming out of it and being like, okay, I have all this free time on my hands. Like I don't have to think about someone else. And let me say, my previous, she's basically my wife. I considered her my wife.
Guys together 12 years.
She's an amazing person. I
Yeah.
still love her dearly, and will always love her.
The most
She's
amicable break I've ever
incredible
seen
person,
in my life.
and amazing. I'm so lucky and blessed to have spent time with her. So, you're always thinking about this person all the time. I can go listen to music at 12:30 at night. I can turn on my
Don't even tempt
I
me
can
with
turn
this
on my
shit.
light and I can
Sorry.
read, Crime and Punishment at 2:30 in the morning if I feel
He's
like.
a savage.
Just, I can do whatever.
Guitar in the bed.
Yeah.
Like be poking my
I can
wife
do
in the
that.
head.
I want to go see the sunset right now. Jump in the truck, go. Don't have to
Right.
say anything to anybody. You know what I mean? I can go. That's something I'm reminding myself a lot of that freedom. But then you put in like this dating, and it's like
it's
then
stressful. Actually.
It's almost worse.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's worse because thinking about someone else is an amazing gift. because it just gets you ready for having kids. Because when the kids, you end up thinking them forward, and then you get down the list. So it's great practice for having kids and for being a leader, period. Because you're always putting
The
God
responsibility you learn for caring for somebody. I don't care if it's your
awesome.
wife or anything.
It's awesome, but it's very
It's
taxing
great.
on the bandwidth. You know, it's not as selfish, and I haven't had a lot of time to be selfish, so I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying what God's given me.
I want to make a point for what you had said, Mike, because I mean, I looked for a wife for a while. I was a believer, and I remember I came out of a 4-year relationship. I was 26, 25, something like that. And I remember doing the dating thing. It wasn't quite as crazy as it is now, but it was nuts for me. Thinking about, I was young enough to not have the depth of mind to be like, this is a person I want to spend the rest of my life with, but I knew I wanted somebody. And so that attitude sucked, because then you'd settle for somebody just to have somebody around. And so that had to kind of get out of the way until I was like, I really want a life partner, and get serious about like looking at church or looking, you know, in places where you think desirable people would be. And it was so like, it's just exactly what you guys are saying. I felt so exhausted at the end of it. And I remember we went on a walk. I went on a walk with Joe. We used to go on, it was basically Iron Disciples, but we would, before the gym, on Fridays, we'd have some coffee, go find a nice place to walk and go share our thoughts. And I was like, you know, I don't think I'm going to look anymore. You know, if God doesn't guarantee everybody a wife. That had hit me hard the week before. And I just noticed, I was like, there's nowhere in the Bible where it says that. If anything, Paul's like, don't get a wife. So yeah. It's like, all right, okay, I see where things are going here. So, and then like, I was like, God's enough, and he's so great, you know, and I'm going to focus on that, because the relationship and depth of the relationships, the relationship with you have with the Lord is actually the most intimate relationship you will ever have. And it should be that way. And up until that point,
it's more, he created women.
He created
you.
it all.
It's
so
more
like
intimate than any of that.
everything that you have with a woman is drawing from that
He made it
relationship,
for
or
you.
should be drawing from that relationship. So I was like, you know what? I'm sort of putting a cap on God. I'm saying, you know, I need a wife to be happy. And it's like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I need God to be happy, and I need to really start saying, God, you're defining this stuff, not me. You're defining how awesome this relationship with you can be, and I'm ready for it. You're awesome. You're a wild man. You're badass. You made black holes. All right, I'm ready.
Really
Let's
cool.
go. Let's go.
God is really cool.
He's amazingly cool, but the depth and okay, so take for instance what I wanted from a woman, right? And this is getting into the intimate part of God. Like I was like, what do I want from a woman? I want to be able to have that sensitivity, that I do want sex and all those other things, right? I'm not going to, you know, people are like the bride of Christ. They get confused with, because we're carnal for right now, right? Okay. But intimacy can transcend those things. And I found God comforting me in like a way that I never knew could happen. I'd sit there at night and I think about the
I'm
verse.
seeing that happen in my life.
Yeah, I think
right
about
now.
the verse, like, you know, when Christ is like, I tried to call you like a mother hen to come under my wings, but you were unwilling. And like these beautiful verses that described just the embrace that God desires from us. And I would just spend time in those thoughts. I'd be like, you know what? This is what's here for me now. And I don't have to feel lonely. I don't have to feel like I'm left out. That stuff is a lie from the pit of hell, keeping me from understanding what this relationship with Christ could be. And that was like a huge turning point. And the crazy thing is, I met my wife like a month and a half after that. And I was like,
but you're dating another girl too. So
I was dating
totally alone.
That's absolutely true. I was dating a woman at the time, and she had a kid, and I knew from the get-go that she kind of, and I'm not going to blame anything on her, but that was a relationship that was a dead-end road from the beginning. And it was one of those things where you play with fire and you get burned. And I got burned hard on that, because you can't spend time with somebody without getting feelings for them. And you just don't know what kind of genie you're letting out of the bottle. And I didn't know. There's another big learning thing for me. You know, it was entitlement to emotion. I was like, you know, I feel like I need a woman. This woman really likes me. She has a kid, but it'll be okay for now. Not the fact, not the truth.
Yeah.
You know,
it's tough. It's hard to be with yourself and not with a woman. You know, I feel that. So I wanted to point out a couple things. Like John said, have a list of things and qualities you want in your wife. Like, be conscientious of what you want out of your wife. Because I'll tell you what, once you meet your woman, there are some things that will change about her, but most of it's going to be the same. And meet her mother, because you're pretty much going to marry her mother most of the time.
True
So
statement.
know what you want before you go into it. Be ready to wait, because you're going to be with her a long time, and it's totally worth it. What are some other things we can bring up for single guys? Because if you're juggling dating and being alone, like I said earlier on, is a gift in itself. So much free time, so much time to spend on yourself. Dating will suck up a lot of time. So will being with a woman. So like, how do you thin the herd on the dating game when we have all these dating apps? And like, where do you look? Like John was saying, you go to church? Do you go, you obviously don't go to the bar, you don't go. And that's what I was thinking. You know what, something hit me this morning? I was like, where do I find, I was thinking this, like, where do you find these women? I think Kansas in a barn. Like, maybe it's like that road is blocked and you were drive past that barn someday when you weren't supposed to.
I mean, our God's a big
it's like
God,
maybe it was those moments in life that you're, they break the schedule, or a flat tire, some shit hits you out of the one left there, and you're like, damn. But that's the way, like, sometimes God can intervene and have you cross paths.
I'll make
with
it
your wife.
happen.
Right.
I guess my question to turn or push back a little bit on, like, the problem with, I think some people make the lists is then they're looking for like a unicorn, and then, like, I know some people in like, they're gonna probably be forever single because they went that route, and
really
now they're 40 plus years old, and they're kind of stuck. So I would say you got to do that within reason. And then, so you got to fit, but that's the problem. It's like, you got to balance this.
Share your list with your bro.
Yeah.
Are you crazy, dude?
Supermodel? I don't think it's going to happen, bro.
The other thing is,
degree in theology, philosophy. You don't look like Christian Bale, bro. I don't think this is happening.
then it's like, how much can you, like, mold a girl too? Like, if she doesn't have all the aspects you want, what is, like, I think you can see that probably in their personality and how submissive they are and how much they're willing to let you lead. Because I think then if she doesn't have all the checklist items, you can influence her probably.
It's a rationale and a pragmatism too. Like, they have to have a certain intelligence if they're not a believer, so that you can kind of go in. Because like John had that experience. Your wife was not necessarily a believer, but she was open. She was a truth seeker, which allowed that to happen.
So going back to that pragmatic breakdown,
because there are some things that change that you can that do in the character.
Well, you're making okay.
What
First of all, out of the gate, guys. I mean, especially if you're an unbeliever, you're taking a huge risk. Does not matter. Like, you're literally looking at something at face value. It's more risky than buying a car at auction. You're not allowed to look under the hood. Usually, I mean, what you see is a facade for like a year or more, and that's why Joe said, "Look, talk to the mom, talk to people."
2.5 years,
right? But
and the Bible's very clear on, like, the unequally yoked thing.
Exactly. Okay, so like, now that's why I go back to what we're talking about, this margin of slippage, right? Within a list.
Well, what's moldable and what's not moldable?
Not only that, but like what you could say, all right, if she really loves having a book meeting in my living room twice a month, okay, I can handle that. Not ideal for you, but you're going to make, and that's what life is with a woman. You're making compromises, you're making exceptions. You want that person to grow. Her interests are not yours, but if you're seeing her grow, you make sacrifices. That's what life is. And you love that. That ends up being the most enjoyable part of your life, is seeing that person grow and trying. That's what a man does. I mean, we're supposed to be the head of the household, and that's supposed to be the typology or the reflection of Christ. And what did Christ do? You think he was hanging out with guys that were always, making him laugh? No, he was not always being, like, indulged with the presence of others. And we shouldn't be seeing our wives that way either. We should be seeing them as, like, this is a woman that God gave me to become a better freaking human. That's why he makes us. If he gives you a wife, you can guarantee he gave it to you because he wants you to be a better man.
So, if you do when you find your wife and you're like, okay, this needs work. For instance, like, maybe it's working out. Or maybe it's like, don't bring the dogs on the bed or something. I don't know.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's the kind of stuff.
Attention seeking.
Dude,
Sure.
yeah, it could be that. I will
Yeah.
say this. You will have to repeat yourself the rest of your life and get used to that, and don't be flustered by the fact that she's not listening. It's just part of being a man. You will have to repeat yourself the rest of your life.
It's not
She will be
disrespect.
doing
You
the
will
same
never.
thing to you.
It should be doing the same thing to you, and you're
Yeah.
never going to be able to coalesce these words. The work gets done in the heart, and the Lord
Yeah.
does it. And you continue to be faithful with repeating things with
Right.
kindness and love. Not like I told you this 100 times over the last few months, and what the
Right,
you-
right. I want to make a point though, because I want to kind of wrap that list thing up, okay? Because Mike talked about being unequally yoked. Serious business for a man of faith, okay? You on that list, right? There are some irremovable items, right? Like she needs to be a woman of faith. She needs to be a woman of faith. For me, okay, I'm not going to backpedal
She was
too much
not
here.
a woman
She
of
was
faith.
not, but I didn't have that conscience in me at the time. All right. So if you do have that conscience in you, this goes back to Paul's teaching in Corinthians, you need to act upon that conscience. That did not exist in me at the time. I did not have that awareness of what God desired for me. I was lucky. She had a Catholic background. She got saved shortly after we started dating. And watching her grow has been like watching, like a weed plant in California grow. It's just been amazing. It's like the best thing I've ever witnessed to be a part of. So,
It does happen.
Well, it
Does
does, and that's because of your conscience. Like God's not going to give you that if you're very well aware of that teaching.
I
and
don't
you
know
go
that.
out.
It could happen.
I'm just saying, very rarely, God does not reward people who do not act upon Scripture and conscience. I mean, that's not something He has mercy on them. I mean, it might not be.
Well,
a
they talk
total
about
failure.
believers in the New Testament having a wife, and how if it's not a believer, you can still have a wife. And they
That's
talk about
before,
that quite a
though.
bit.
I mean, that's not like they're going into that as a believer, saying, "I'm going now that I know the unequally yoked. I'm going to specifically seek out a person who's not a believer and say that's okay." That's a different story. Serious.
Hopefully not. But if she's
Hopefully not.
amazing and you see the potential, and the
I'm
God's
just-
like, you know what, this could be the one. You've been through it a long time. Don't turn your nose up to
Proceed
her.
with caution.
Don't
bro.
say I'm not
You know?
going to marry you.
So
Or I'm
on
not
that-
going to try at all.
All right. So like on that list,
I-
you have.
I won't even date. Like I won't seriously date someone that's not a believer.
Yep.
'Cause I
But
just
what
think
if they
it's-
have like a real, like they're seeking the truth? You can tell like they just haven't been guided towards that place yet. Like
and you
they,
can be
you can
with them, a
sincerely,
friend
you
with
can
them.
see like a sincerity
even
within their
risky.
I would-
spirit. You know what I mean? Like you see this even with
Mike's kind of there
anybody.
right now with
I would
Katie.
I would
in some ways.
I would say I would probably put the person in the friend zone, and then
That's how all relationships start, though,
kinda
right?
see where-
Friends.
kind of see where it goes. Invite the person to church, just see like the reaction to that. Like, is this completely a turnoff to them? If you'd think if they are into you, that they'd want to go do things that you're inviting them to that are important to you.
Right.
That's a
So
good point.
So
But
you
I would
wouldn't
be-
like cross them off the list and be like,
No.
that's a no.
no,
You'd be like a possible.
it'd be like a possible, but I would not. I would
Proceed
I
with
would have some
caution.
serious mental barriers up that I do not want to get emotionally attached to this person.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be so hard to backpedal.
Oh, yeah.
If you know that, if you find out, because like 6 months
Painful.
later that this is not gonna go anywhere.
Well, okay, so back to the list. Let's wrap that thing up.
It's
Okay,
hard.
so like a guy is gonna like something that he likes. Everybody has a type. They have stuff that they like in a woman. Man, some guys like long hair, short hair, whatever. It's not like, okay, that's something that you can decide on. But the most important features of a woman are where her heart is with the Lord. I'm just gonna say that. So like getting stuck with lists that are sort of she had blue eyes, she has a nice bust, and she, like for me, I wanted a woman that did enjoy music, that could connect with me on some of my big points
it's
in
a
my
big
life,
one.
right? Like I
Yep.
want her to have a certain her interests need to sort of overlap with mine so we can hang out.
Yeah.
So I can hang
Common-
out with her.
Common interest.
Common interests are so important, and I don't think you can make a list. Your list would be so long if they
Yeah.
really, and that's what everybody calls chemistry. It's like, oh, you got chemistry together. It's like, well, we can talk for like an hour and we don't know what happens because we have common interests. We can kind of like, we can jam.
We have chemistry here.
We do as men. and so, like that cocktail of love from that chemistry that you get will make you desire that person further. So you're more likely to overlook, okay, well, she's got brown eyes instead of blue eyes.
Okay.
I love her. That's what you end up saying. And that's how you know that.
But
like,
don't be bamboozled either, because that, I'm telling you, like, the love wears off after 2.5 years.
I don't believe that, dude. That's infatuation.
I'm not
Love
saying
grows.
the love wears. Yeah, you're right. So that's what I mean. And so just be like, you need to know what you want. It's important.
Wait, so let's take it the
It's
other direction.
important.
You get a really hot babe that's got no depth. You're gonna be sick of her in a month,
Maybe less.
maybe less. So
Yeah.
those things is what I'm saying. The heart, the offering that she has to maintain your interest in conversation, those things. I mean, don't misunderstand me. We're talking about the list and the things that I feel will be very hard to make. Like I would not have a list where she has blue eyes, blonde hair, needs to hold a
There's
conversation.
nothing wrong with putting those
Right.
in a list.
No,
dude.
I'm not done yet. And so you have that list, right? And then sacrifice like, oh, she's not good at conversations, but she has blue eyes and blonde hair. So I'll take her.
So
I'll
that's the
take her.
priorities.
Like the yeah. So
not
that's going to be the
correct.
top. I'd rather strike those off at the
Well,
bottom.
obviously, and that goes probably for the younger guys out there. You'll find that out. Like, that's not the prioritize your life first, God first, character, and then you can add in blue eyes and
Yeah.
other stuff if you like. That's fine. That's good. You should
I'm
know
not
what you
saying
like.
there's a problem with that.
You
Yeah.
should. And
And then it would be figuring out what is moldable
mm,
versus what's not.
you're
It's
right.
a really good point.
That was where
You
we
know,
came.
because one of
It's the
like
equally yoked thing though. Like
the RP community kind of turned me out, made me aware of some of the bad traits a lot of females have today that I would have probably not necessarily caught right away.
Mm.
And that the big one is like the attention seeking, number one on social media.
Oh my god.
And then number two,
it's
like
an illness.
it's an illness.
the single behavior with friends, like on a Friday night. It's like you're in a relationship. You're not going out to the bar on a Friday
Right,
night
but they
and
got
looking
this
single.
appetite that they have
Yeah.
to feed.
So those things, I think you can mold. You can get that out of them
You
when
show
they're
them
in
a better
relationship.
way, right?
It's like, because they basically, some of those guys will not even, they'll like if they have a girl with a big Instagram following, they're either gonna want her to delete it or mark it private, and like you're not posting those kinds of photos anymore.
right.
And I think that's like,
Well, it just goes along with the tacit gesture
Yeah.
connected with that.
It
those
depends
are-
on if that's her business or not, too. Because
Yeah.
it's like she's making money and that's her income, which some people, girls do. I mean, be
Shit.
real. A girl just needs to like show her butt on Instagram, and
but
she's
it's like, do
automatically
you want to
has,
deal
like,
with someone
1,000
that's gonna
likes now.
have
No.
DMs constantly by
Depends on
potentially
who
like
you
blue
are.
checks and stuff?
Yeah.
And
I probably wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to deal with that.
I'd probably be like just nah.
Like
Like,
I don't need that static.
I want a down home girl, bro.
There you go.
That's
It's
like you could
yeah.
get like, do you let's
It's
just say
wholesome.
let's say you had like an
Warm.
Instagram fitness chick
Beat
that
on
you think
that,
is
bro.
gorgeous. She's Christian and everything, but she's got 300,000 followers, and
Ah,
you know
nah,
every.
dude.
I'm not with that.
Yeah, I
mean,
wouldn't
to
wanna
me, there's
deal
a
with that.
disconnect.
I don't think
you
so,
have
dude.
to. Okay,
I'm not saying never.
Let me say
I
this.
haven't met one, but it seems like whoa, like
Look. People like to be. They're duplicitous in their action. Okay, so if a person like, and it goes for men too. I see men's
she's a drug
Instagram
addict.
pages the
Attention
same way.
is the number one
Well, right.
cocaine of the world.
But look at it this way, okay? The fruit of the tree is what the Bible tells us, right? If her fruit is showing her ass and like what she's lifting and skin tight clothes, you can see her pussy, and you're like, okay, you know what? I see your Bible verse. Fine. But you're actually doing that harm. You're not actually
Yeah,
showing me you're a Christian. I don't
exactly.
care what you say with your words, man. Your fruit is pornography. Guys are whacking off to you, and you like it. Be
Mhm.
honest. You freaking like it.
feels good.
Yeah, you like that feeling. And so it's a drug, and people have to get real with what that is. And sure, women have it,
Way
more
easier.
easy
There's
access
too many
to
guys
it.
that just like love. They'll be like, "Oh, babe, you're so hot," and they do that for like 100 girls a day.
This is the girls. They're so creepy. / I'm looking at this shit all the time, loving it.
yeah. That's why they're talking about it.
All right, so like look at the
Yeah.
fruit, right?
Yeah.
So if you have a woman that's a Christian and she's devoting her time to like she's going into ministry, she's
Let's
giving her
dial this
time-
back though, because like some girls, like I do some modeling on the side, and I have to show skin, and I post those to get gigs, because that's what you do. You have to have your portfolio out on Instagram for people to look at your stuff to say, yes, I want this guy. I'm gonna hire him because he's got abs and he's got super long hair, and you have to. That's your product, is yourself. Now girls do that too. Just saying, where do you draw the line on that?
Okay, that's a good question.
How do you deal with that?
Like, just for me, I just probably wouldn't deal with a girl that's
I
doing
don't
that
date
for
models.
her. I don't.
Helga's only.
No, they don't have to be Helga. They can be model
There's-
material.
And there's
Doesn't matter
there's a
if they're
there's
There's
a
a
lot.
lot of beautiful Helgas out there.
There's a
I think it's cool.
reasonable double standard there with men and women too, because even you posting modeling photos, your DMs aren't full of girls,
Nah.
but I guarantee
Dudes.
yeah,
I got DMs full of dudes, man.
I
Like,
don't want to know what they're
Lots
asking.
of gay dudes. it's hilarious.
Exactly.
I got
See,
nothing to beef with them. Most of them are respectful and just very complimentary. But yeah,
Yeah, and then a girl does
no
the same
girl. Where are you,
thing.
girls? What the heck?
Yeah, girls don't pursue
don't-
like
yeah,
that's
that's
the
right.
that's the difference and why there's a bit of a double standard on how you should view it, because the girl posts that same version of the photo, but with her, she is going to have a ton of DMs, and it's like when is one of those going to work? Like,
How
if
do
you're
they
dating
deal with this buffet
They-
of like
they don't.
attention?
It's a cacophony. Of
That's why it goes
dopamine.
right back to just meeting someone in person. You know what I mean? Like you just see them and you're like, I'm going to introduce
The
myself to this
Notebook,
person.
baby.
Goes right back to the
It sucks
to the
to realize
airports,
that
to
these
the,
stories,
to the
right?
shopping,
The reason why the romantic stories
markets.
are romantic is because of the element of
flat
of,
tires and rainy days, man. You know?
yeah. Well, it's the element of expectation. I think that when you don't know yourself that well, no one really does. So your list is always going to be filled with these cliche-like things that are usually face value. But
The list of what
I'll
you
tell
want
you,
out of a woman.
yeah, because I want to kind of like tell you guys something. With my wife, she has sharpened me in a way that I never could have. Like there's things that were beyond me, like in so many ways, and there are things that like to appreciate them, I had to go through them, and I could never put that on a piece of paper because if I was to put it in a word, it's growth. Like she's fertilizer to your man. And that's not something that's easily understandable. There's friction involved. There's all that good stuff. But if her heart's right and yours is right, you'll see how that enhances you as a man. And I can't quantize that. I don't think people really are good at that anyway. That's why there's love, stories that they punch the heart a little bit so that when a man and a woman have been together for a long time, they see that.
I think
and they
it's
treasure it a little more
good.
real.
That's good, and it's different. I mean, I think.